Good evening and welcome. This is the Public Art Select Committee meeting. December the 4th. It's 6:30 and we'll get underway. Item number 1, welcome to the traditional territory of the Squamish people. And our second item is the adoption of the agenda. And the staff recommendation is that we adopt the December 4th, 2019 Public Arts Select Committee agenda. Need a mover? Moved by Amy, seconded by Peter. All those in favor? Great, unanimous. So the first item is the minutes from our last meeting, the Public Arts Select Committee meeting of November the 6th. And the staff recommendation is that those minutes be approved as presented. And we have a mover for that. Moved by anyone? Thank you, Anna. And seconded by Catherine. All those in favor? Motion carries, unanimous. I don't know of any business arising out of those minutes. And I'll just do a check. No business arising. There are no delegations tonight, no petitions. And that will take us to item number 5, the major public art project update. And Sarah has a presentation for us, or is it just
it's a verbal update?
Okay.
So I guess the committee had recommended an update on the major project as it was on hold as of, I guess, early 2019. The update is quite simple. Because of the lack of uptake with the call for proposals or the RFP, council decided to put it on hold, being a new council and awaiting some kind of training. Subsequently, after that training occurred, it's my understanding that council have now kind of taken the lead on a new process of truth and reconciliation, and that portfolio, I don't want to call it a portfolio, but that truth and reconciliation will be led by council in a new manner moving forward. We recently took some courses. One of them was regarding decolonization, and so it's my decolonization of the city. So looking at our practices as a municipality and how we can decolonize, process, and work with Indigenous peoples more effectively, recognizing their needs and their processes, and the way they operate day to day is different than our colonial manner. And so if I haven't covered anything, I can pass over to Devin or Councillor French.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts,
yeah.
but let's, obviously Devin has some thoughts too.
Go ahead. I think that there's, I realize that was a contradiction of what I just said. I think there's an opportunity for the Public Art Committee to play a role in Council's overall journey and focus under their commitment of truth and reconciliation. It just, we'll have to look at it at a different lens. And so I think right now, the major project that this committee is feeling committed to should move forward with a different focus, and that there'll be opportunities later on.
Okay, great. Catherine, I see your hand, and in a quick moment, I will get to you. Oh, do you have a specific question to something?
Well,
that
I
Devin...
do, but it's fine. I can wait.
You know, if it's specific to something we've just heard, then go
I
ahead.
just want for clarification. So the major project is still the purview of the Public Art Committee. It's not, like in terms of public art, it's not being adopted or taken by the council and running with it?
Correct.
Okay.
You still have the major project envelope
Of any
of
kind?
money.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, I see. They want to take the issue and expand upon it in a bigger way, and maybe we can come back to that with art in the future? Is
Correct.
that sort of the attitude?
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thanks.
So some of the follow-up, or are you good?
I'm fine.
Okay.
That was it.
So Sarah mentioned workshops and training, and in the 1 year that I've been on council now, I attended a day-long workshop a number of months ago that was specifically focused on truth and reconciliation, colonial legacy, and that whole theme. And the workshop was facilitated by two people who were clearly experienced in delivering this particular workshop and delivering it effectively. And it was attended by most of the council members, along with a number of district staff members. And it was here in this room, and the room was basically at capacity for that type of active workshop that we were in. And for me, it was really insightful and gave me really great insight into the major project and the history that it has had.
For the public art?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and most notably, Sarah's point earlier that the call that went out was not well received. There was not much response.
No,
and,
none. There was zero response.
And out of the workshop, I gained a greater appreciation for what was at the source of that lack of interest.
Right.
And you know, for me, it comes down to the process that we created was very colonial.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not what we're trying to achieve. Our project is about reconciliation, and for the colonials to impose a system, I saw why it didn't work, and so that's part of the reason why we are at this point where we are.
When was that workshop?
You know, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Back?
It was a while back.
I mean, it would have been great to have discussed this a while back. I mean, the process. Yes, sure. The presentation was a standard colonial district request for proposals. We did. You know, we had Suecia working with us on this, and we spoke. We had a long meeting with elders, and at no point was it suggested that we take another route, which I'm sure would have been great, joyfully embraced. Like we weren't trying to do anything in a Well, we thought that we had good advice at the time.
Yeah.
But I do have a question, which is if the major project is no longer a truth and reconciliation project, has the Squamish Nation been told yet? Because they were aware of it. And they should be told. The elders should be told. They spent time with us and gave us their opinions. We had roundtables and at Totem Hall, and we can't just drop this without formally telling them.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I can speak on my own behalf and say that I haven't communicated it in any way. Now, having said that, though, there is a monthly meeting of the District of Squamish and the Squamish Nation leadership, and the acting mayor attends those meetings with the mayor and various staff, whoever might be appropriate for whatever the topic is at any given meeting. And it very well could have been communicated during one of those meetings.
Formal.
I just don't know.
I deeply feel it needs to be formal, because maybe our methods weren't preferred and we weren't given access to any workshops, but we did speak to people. This took months and months of discussion. We had members of the nation crying in this room because they were so overjoyed about the project. So I would like to at least put this into writing for them. I'm happy to put it into writing, although I don't think it should be me. But they need to know. There were people who embraced it from the nation. And I am, you know, I respect the council wanting to do their own thing, but we need to, that's our due diligence now. We need to tie it off.
Yeah,
properly.
well, and it's not even council doing its own thing.
Yeah,
because as
sorry,
we heard
I wasn't
earlier,
trying to be glib.
it's the Public Art Committee is still very much a key part of it. Devin?
I think those are excellent observations, and I think that there's an opportunity there, actually, in going back to the elders and saying, you know, this didn't work, and we think we know why, but what do you think?
Yeah, that should have happened.
And continuing that conversation, I think that's part of like forming relationships with our partner Squamish Nation.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
Peter?
Maybe it's a point of clarification, but for somebody who didn't go through the process and wasn't intimately involved with it, I'm not hearing a negative here, I'm hearing an opportunity. I hear...
What do you mean?
I don't hear it's like it's stopped, it's out of the council hands, it's like, you know, it's fallen and flat on its face, it's just not worked. I don't hear that. That's not what I hear. What I hear is that sometimes when you start a project, things don't go as you plan.
Yeah.
And things don't work out as you
Yeah.
hope. But that does
the
not mean...
momentum didn't continue either. So.
Exactly, but that's the point. As you review the process, you say, well, what exactly happened? And when you do a project, those who are intimately involved in it, it's hard for you to step back and look at those things sometimes. And so I'm not saying, no, just hold on 1 second. What I'm trying to say is I think this is not as maybe as negative, and I could see an opportunity. I'm just trying to like just see from an outside point of view. And just
I don't see it as a negative. It's taken way too long to have this conversation because it was over 2 years ago that we met with the elders. And I'm really annoyed about that. I mean, we should have been talking about this months ago. And just so that we can let them know that, I mean, that's what's important to me, right? Because whatever, however messy our request for proposal may have been, and I'm encouraging it not to be messy. It did happen. You know, we did as the best as our understanding was at the time, and we need to tie it off. I have no problem with council pursuing it the way they want to. I was concerned about this huge amount of money that had been earmarked for a very important project, and nobody was talking about it. And we're talking like a year now, right? So since this new version of the Public Art Committee has grown again, and that's what's I find upsetting, is that we had made a commitment.
And I think the commitment's to there, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, but I asked for this last meeting, and now we're finding out. And that just takes too long. I don't think that's respectful.
Ashley?
I'm unfamiliar with the project. Should I get
yeah, sorry.
Sure.
That's totally okay.
Yeah. So the previous council earmarked a fairly large amount of money to create a truth and reconciliation art installation of some kind that was designed to be a two-phase project. And the idea was it would acknowledge the First Nations people and their history here. And the way that it was supposed to come about just didn't work. Process resulted in no artists coming forward to say that they wanted to take the project on. So we've sent it back to the drawing board and trying to figure out how to make it successful.
And at the time, the project was only, we were only asking for calls from members of the Squamish Nation. And that was part of the plan. The people, we were told at the time, after we didn't get any proposals, that a lot of it had to do with the artists who were experienced in doing large-scale projects like that are very popular artists, and they get booked years in advance.
Oh.
So that was part of it as well. So that's what we were told at the time.
Yeah. Good. Any final thoughts on this before we move to the next item?
Is the Squamish Nation going to get some kind of like written update?
Sarah and Devin and whoever else needs to be pulled into
That would be awesome.
this
Thank you.
will formulate a plan.
Yeah, because I don't want to have to send
Figure something
people, messages on Facebook. I think it needs to be written down. I just think that's respectful. Because we're talking about, respect and methods of showing it, and I just think that that's part of it.
Yep.
We'll handle it at the state level.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, we can move on to the next item. Yes? Student art competition, and Sarah, you've got some thoughts for us on this?
I have. So I just wanted to let the community know that the student art competition public art competition has been running for, I'd say, over a month now. And our closing date is on December 15th. And we have not received an application thus far. So the posters went to the schools, the letters went to the schools. Angela had made a connection with Howe Sound Secondary, and I just wanted to bring to the committee's attention that if you have any thoughts on, I don't know if students are working, maybe Ashley can tell us some more, if students are working towards that deadline, and that's why we haven't seen any applications so far, but just wanting to put it out to the committee to see if you had any thoughts to try and get some applications in before the deadline. That's it.
Has there been sort of a champion at the school?
So Angela was kind of leading this program or this project, and she's not here, but I believe that she had been in contact with, her name is escaping me.
Natalie Bozevart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ashley has the correct
and
pronunciation.
that
I do not.
was the bridge into the school there. So Ashley, maybe you could tell us if you've heard, is the poster up or people aware?
I have seen posters around the school, but I think the problem is just this year there's a really small amount of students who are very passionate about art. Like last year I was in the art club and there was probably 10 students who came every year. Now it's 2.
Oh, okay.
Like it's me and one other kid, and we just go, and that's kind of it. So I think that the problem is that there's not a lot of students this year for some reason that are really passionate and invest a lot of time in art.
Okay.
And if there are, they're in my grade and they're all graduating and pretty busy with that.
Yeah. Okay. So any thoughts from the committee on I guess we'll see if any applications come in, and then we can discuss it in January.
Jacquie?
Oh, I just had a question for Ashley. Is there any thought of making an announcement, like in morning announcements? Do you still do that?
Not many people listen to it. I was wondering, was she in contact with the new art teacher?
I don't know. What's the name of the new art teacher?
Stangowitz?
Maybe I can give that teacher a call.
Yeah, because there's
He,
4
she?
blocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
When's the
she's
deadline
in.
again?
December 15th.
December 15th. Yeah, so it's a couple of, but it's not impossible to put an application. But they have about 2 weeks, and if it did come in a little bit later,
Yeah.
we're not going to say no. Our meeting isn't until January, so.
Yeah.
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys do a Christmas assembly?
Yes.
It's probably after the 15th.
I think it's the last day of school,
Oh.
which is the 20th.
Okay.
Peter?
Is there anything that can make it really cool and appealing that's missing?
Yeah.
What's missing? What would you do?
I don't know. It's hard to get students
just
involved
cash
in
prizes.
things.
For every
Do you think
applicant.
it's just literally what you said before? It's just not
I think there's
that's
just not a
the
lot of
only
people
one.
interested right now. Like any other year, I'm sure would have.
Was that the
Been a
only
bit
school
better.
targeted?
No, they were sent out to Coast Mountain Academy and also the Squamish
learning expeditions.
Yeah.
Is it worth a phone call to whoever those are?
Yeah, for sure. I can tell
You
the
just kind of shake the tree a
follow up.
little. Encouragement. We're so looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and if anybody at this table has adult friends with high school age students in the schools, yeah, certainly feel free to bring it up at cocktail parties over the next couple of weeks.
Well, The Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe is playing at the school, so bring
Yes.
it up there.
Yeah, I think it's, 2 more days, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's fame and fortune. They need
Yeah.
not cash, but it could be like the
Fame and
billboard
fortune.
Yeah.
Fame and fortune, yes, in this room.
If you come up with good ideas, email us and
Yeah.
we'll come back.
And it's a great thing on a resume.
I was going to say, it's a good
yeah,
portfolio.
like that's true.
For
Good
trying to
addition,
get
yeah.
into art school, doesn't hurt.
Good addition to your portfolio.
Great, and if after the meeting some great idea comes to you, feel free to just go ahead and take it on yourself to promote this art competition. Every little bit will help to get the word out.
Did I hear that there was a poster created?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Could we get a copy and use it electronically?
For sure.
Another great idea.
Yeah.
You're full of great
If
ideas.
you could send, if you could send one, I'll put it
Thanks,
on
Jackie.
Facebook or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send it.
And we could put it on some of the general Squamish.
Yeah, Squamish moms.
Squamish.
I'll
yeah.
send you guys the poster and the application.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's, anything that we can do as individuals to just get the word out is great.
Can you send it as a JPEG, not
Yeah.
a PDF? Because we can't post PDFs on social
You
media.
can just
Okay.
convert it. Yeah.
I know, but.
Not you.
Well, I'm
Sarah.
actually.
I'll try. I'll
Thanks.
do that. Yeah, and I'll send you guys a link to the application on the website.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. That's awesome.
Great. So let's move to the next item then, which is an advisory design panel update, and Jackie has that for us.
So we met again on November 21st, and there were 2 projects that came before us. Both were residential. One was up in the university area, University Heights, and the second one was down on Wilson Crescent, which is just opposite the high school. It's a very highly dense area.
It's very dense.
So,
there.
yeah. It's a small set of units. They, again, went with a very dark color. Staff and also people around the table were kind of advising them to go with a lighter scheme because it's very closely knit and very tightly. Maybe go with some lighter colors up above. Also given our gray skies to lighten up the neighborhood. And given the density of the neighborhood, I'm going to pass it around. There was talk about using the structure and the landscaping as artistic elements to give the development some life. So that was,
Is it 2 copies of the same document?
no, they gave us an
think I
addendum
maybe
of the
saw that.
landscape
Okay.
piece. So that was that one. If you see anything in terms of comments, I can always send something back. But I really encourage them again on color. But I wasn't the only one apparently around the table was color and using structure and also using landscape material to give an aesthetic to the build. The second one was at the other end of the spectrum. It was light and airy and very open, and the team around the table was very amenable to the structure. It's very well laid out. It's this one was just 2 solid blocks, one on Wilson Crescent. This one was 3 groupings, kind of scattered, which gave light and movement and the only issue was the slant of the roof and the snow. That was the biggest issue.
And
So
where is this project?
this particular one is up on University Heights. It's a set of townhouses. It's in a grouping of single dwelling homes. So this is phase 2, and this is townhomes. And there's a great play area. There's a lovely park that sort of fronts the property that will give some great movement to the space. I'll pass that way. Yeah, so just 2 residential pieces that came. There is opportunity in the park for public art. That will come
So
at
there's
some point.
a park component
Yeah.
within this particular
Yeah, right on
development?
the front sculpture part of the property. You'll see it on the floor plan.
They're kind of using paving as public art.
Yeah, though that came into question as to how the paving would survive. Because some of it was painted on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote a piece about living on Wilson Crescent once, and I called it the Manhattan of Squamish.
Yeah, it is.
It's really tight.
It's very tight in there.
It's for the road
Yeah.
access,
Yeah, exactly.
especially, and now it's going to get.
Well, and that was the question, was the density and what was being built around it. And so the advisory team asked for some context as to what else is being built in the area. And shadows being cast in that area because it's Manhattan.
You're saying
Yeah.
it exceeded density regularly? Or-
No, just
So
it
that's
is.
the difference between these two.
Yeah. It's very tight, and so the dark color of the structures and the potential for, you know, a slightly taller building just down the road, or two land assemblies over would might play into the darkness of it.
Any questions on?
But yeah, did you see the front part of where the park was? Was there any question on that?
Are they putting in wooden benches? Is that what these photos are?
Sorry, let me see.
Like I can see the art that you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, there's going to be a bench at the very
outdoor
end.
seating?
There's a park, sort of a bench.
Oh, yeah. There's
Yeah.
2 or
So there was a question as to where the garbage went versus the park.
Yeah. Is that the paving I was mentioning?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't see why they would paint it. Why they just use different colored bricks anyway.
Well, some of it does look like it's pavers.
Yeah,
that's
And
what I
then
thought.
Some is painted.
Lisbon is famous for its roads like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we move off of ADP, Jackie, I want to acknowledge that in our last council meeting, one of the things that we talked about was the Buckley Affordable Housing Project. And through advisory design panel feedback, the developers have really revisited the public art portion of the project. And I know that you were part of that
Yeah,
push. So
yeah.
I think that really speaks to the participation that our committee has in the advisory design panel, and then actually making a difference in what developers are up to. Because the Buckley Avenue project, it's an affordable housing project. So wherever possible, affordability is being put up front. And in the initial design concepts, public art wasn't a focus. And I know out of the ADP meeting that there was a strong feeling in the ADP that there needed to be something in the public art realm. And what's come back, I think, is a great solution, is a decorative retaining wall for. So there's a ramp that is being designed to come down off of the skateboard park and down to the bottom elevation of the building. And so what would be created out of that is a big concrete blank wall. And so out of ADP, the thought came, how about if we get some students to decorate that concrete wall? And that wasn't talked about until the ADP process.
Well, and there was that and the youth center, and that the two be tied together through art, and there was a connection, and that there's internal art inside the youth center, and that it flow out into the park and back and forth to create that connection, because there was a bit of a disconnect through the parking lot, and so that was one of the hot topics.
Yeah, so my point here is that we can all at this table know that our influence is showing up at other committees and producing results, which is really great. So, well done.
Thank you.
Anything else on advisory design before I move on?
It's great. It's so great to have this because it just, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Just to be able to keep track of it.
The only thing I might say is it would be nice to get to a point where we see this ahead of time and then I can take our comments to that committee. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
It's not just me, my single voice. It would be a more collective.
Oh,
Sort of everybody kind of looks at this and then
yeah,
give me a bit of input and then.
I don't think that's possible because
Okay.
the
Just a thought.
meeting planning for the advisory design panel, I don't think it would allow for it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe Sarah, that's something you could keep your ear to the ground for? Or?
It's unfortunate. Usually ADP agendas have a tight deadline.
Oh, yeah.
And so their applications on reports are usually only ready the second Thursday of the month.
Yeah.
And then I think ADP is the third Thursday of the month. And so that doesn't kind of coincide with our schedule for.
Yeah.
Is it, and this is just a thought, and tell me if it's not kosher or not protocol. Once I get that link, because I get electronic links to these,
Yeah.
is it fair to share it with the committee in
yeah,
advance
sure.
and then say, give me your feedback so I can take it to the committee?
That's
Yeah, absolutely.
it's entirely public.
Okay.
So anybody from the public can go on there and access the agendas as soon as they're published. So as soon as you get that link, they're live to the world.
Okay.
And it's whether the committee want to comment on that or leave it to you as the ADP representative, but you can 100% share it with whoever you like.
I'd just like to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
So.
If you're willing to take that on,
Sure.
I say absolutely
Okay.
go ahead and do it.
Yep.
Because more information is always better than
Yeah. Then less.
no information.
Then no information. A vacuum.
And when you choose to do that, if the committee members are able to take a few minutes to review whatever you've sent out and send you some comments, great.
Yeah.
And if you don't have time to do that, don't worry, you're not obligated.
No, there's no
But the
obligation.
opportunity is there for you
Yeah.
as a group. Okay, good. Thank you, Jackie. So the next item is the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Strategy, and I've got an update on that. And Sarah, I'm going to lean on you and Amy as well a little bit to contribute to this because you both were involved in a workshop session that happened a few days ago, week and a half ago. So the idea was to bring stakeholders within the arts, culture, and heritage realm together for 2 workshops that were to be facilitated. Now, in the end, it got boiled down to just 1 workshop, and it was held here, and there were three tables? Yeah, 3 tables with about 8 people at each table. And each table had good representation from all 3 realms. And we basically walked through a program that helped the staff and the facilitator to identify what the priorities are with the people that were in the room. And each table worked independently on the same thing. And then we put our results up on the board and compared the 3 tables, and then from there some obvious trends and themes were developing out of the work that was being done at the 3 tables. And my table was the most efficient and produced the best work. We were always the first ones finished our tasks. Not that I'm like competitive or our table was at all competitive. But from my own perspective, the process worked really well, and we got some really great feedback out of that workshop. And Amy, I'm going to put you on the spot just for your thoughts on how it went and what you got out of it.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I think a lot of the themes that had been coming out in the discussions with various stakeholder groups is what we were sort of seeing on these slips of paper. And a lot of them were sort of similar, but the wording was a little bit different. And just in the wording being slightly different, the idea was different. And so it really had us pause and think. We were not the most efficient, but we were probably the deepest thinking table.
Yes.
We didn't go broad, we really went deep with our explorations.
Each table had its own strengths.
That's why there were 3.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. We had some really good discussions, and I think that was sort of the theme of our table was what is the most important? Like, let's pick the top 3 things that we think are the most important and discuss them. And the other ones, if they necessitated discussion, were up there. But 3 was a good number for us, and yeah, it was really interesting to see that there was a lot of similarities, but then there was also a lot of new discussion that we, as individual stakeholders, hadn't yet thought of.
Now, Sarah, just for a bit of context, our vision out of the workshop, what was our objective? Do you have that, like, right off the top of your head?
Yeah, so I'm trying to get this up now because I have the presentation here from that workshop. But basically what we were trying to establish was, from all of our community engagement with about 25 stakeholder groups, we had come up with 4 themes for the workshop, and also a vision and a mission. And we wanted to kind of check that with the room. We allowed for an opportunity for feedback on the vision and the mission, as well as the themes. And also we wanted the stakeholders to identify their priorities in terms of strategies, which was what they're referring to as little slips of paper. So they prioritize strategies, and then the next step will to be establish actions for each strategy, and how some ideas on how that's delivered and how it feels. How will it feel as a community when those objectives are met? So we actually ran out of time at the workshop, which was supposed to be one workshop, and now we're holding an additional workshop to focus on that action component. And from there, staff will be drafting the strategy and taking it to council in January. And then we will most likely be coming back for further public engagement prior to adoption.
Right, and you're reminding me that when we were getting close to the end of the evening, it was clear that our full agenda wasn't going to be achieved. So we had a little poll of 3 options: carry on the conversation online, have another session, and there was some third option, I think some hybrid of those 2.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And so ultimately the group opted for let's get together again. And sadly, I won't be able to make that session. But I think at our next meeting, will you be there?
Yeah.
I'm going to
So-
try and be there this time too.
Okay, great. Then on our next agenda, I'd like to have an item that would just be an update from the 2 of you, assuming you're both there, of how to go, what happened. A brief summary.
And then just for the committee's information, that's just the 4 themes there: cultivate, connect, space, and vitalize. And that they're going to be the broad themes of the strategy.
So
And then,
I just want to
yeah.
put a little bit finer of a point on, can you go back to
the cogs in there.
yeah, so cultivate, connect, vitalize, and space came from the one-on-one individual stakeholder meetings that Sarah and Sydney attended. And so through the dissemination of all of that feedback through the 25 stakeholder groups, themes started to appear. And those themes were basically grouped into 4 different categories. And then the strategies that the 3 tables debated on and helped prioritize, those specific strategies become the strategies of the arts, culture, and heritage strategy. And so the next step of the workshop is to action those strategies that from the things that we heard from the community that are the priority and thus important. There we go, perfect. That's the slide.
So in a nutshell, that's what we did.
Great. Any questions on the arts, culture, and heritage strategy?
So the next meeting is?
The next workshop?
Yeah.
Um,
The 17th.
December 17th
Oh.
from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
and that is open to the people who were at the first, so it's
Yeah.
carry on.
So Catherine.
Yeah. I'm gonna call in sick for the morning.
Peter.
I have a question which is not directly related, but I'm interested. Who runs these workshops? You know, we always attend workshops and we're always intrigued, like what determines the format and structure of this workshop versus, say, another one. Was there like a company that comes in, or do you as a team just go?
Yeah, we had Meg McClure facilitate it. However, we staff worked on the content and what we wanted to achieve from the workshop, and then Meg came in and lent a hand with kind of the strips of like making the activities in order to get the outcome.
Just on the day.
Sorry, just on that day.
just-
Yeah.
She did a really great job of keeping us on track. You know, as a group, we went long, and I think Meg did a really great job of making sure we didn't drag it way off of the time schedule. Definitely kept us focused.
So that's all I have for you guys today. I have a staff update with the budget as well, if you want to go through that. I think I missed putting it on the agenda. But
Yeah.
it's a learning curve, guys.
I'll just put it in there right now.
Oh, and it's
Staff update.
de-guessed as well, so that's great. So this is your budget. You're potentially done for the year. But depending on whether the high school competition comes, has any applications, you're a bit over budget anyways, so I think you're wrapped up, unfortunately, in terms of spending. And potentially have one application coming forth in January for consideration.
And would that be applied to our 2019 budget?
No, 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay. Catherine.
Are we surprised that it went over budget?
I am.
I am too. But I mean, how did we lose track of that? Because that would have been in the last month.
You technically are over budget, but could be under budget. So it's got the two in the red. I know it's hard to see on that, but the first item and then the high school competition could bring you under budget if it doesn't pan out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the Squamish School Application Learning Expedition?
So if the committee reflects back, and I think it was in the January or February meeting, it was early in the year,
Yeah.
they had come with a public art application.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it turned out that I think it was a little bit of a bigger project than they anticipated, and so the money never went out to them.
Okay.
We were kind of on hold to see if they were going to come back, and we haven't heard anything, so I don't think it's...
Oh, I see, yeah.
So that could come back off our budget as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's why it's that, the light's a little bit iffy here, but
That's
it's
fine.
actually in red.
Yeah,
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 that's why I was asking you.
yeah.
Because it obviously is not been spent.
No, it hasn't been spent, no money went out.
And it wasn't, we haven't had it on our budget until now?
No, we had it on there,
Okay.
but I just, thank you. I think that Devin had some idea that it wouldn't be going through.
Well, and
Okay.
from our discussion after that application, one of the concerns that was expressed at this table was, have they bitten off more than they chew? Is this project bigger than what they can handle? And maybe that's what has transpired. And either way, those students who came here and did the presentation
Full
was
points.
great experience for them.
yeah.
So just
The
that
experience.
part of their project,
Yeah.
in my mind, they got a lot out of it. whether the project happens or not.
Awesome.
And projects like this, my son attended this program, and I know how it works. It's project-based, and things were rolling into the next semester all the time. So while we maybe haven't seen a lot of movement on it from our perspective, I wouldn't be at all surprised if this is still grinding its way through with the younger students, and maybe it will carry into 2020 and into the next school. I have no idea. But what I do know is those kids who came and did those presentations learned a ton just out of that part of the project.
Has there been any?
I have Jackie before
Sorry.
you. Go ahead, Jackie.
I was just wondering, for some reason I recall the street banner competition was $6,000, not $7,000.
And for clarification, a component of that will be towards the prize for the artist,
Yeah.
the successful artist, and then the remainder will be towards the budget to help with the budget.
Maintenance?
No,
Oh.
to like assist with the budget line item.
To actually print the
Print
banners,
the banners,
Oh, I see.
etc.
produce
Yeah.
them.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right.
Thank you for getting me there.
So,
follow up?
sorry, that's where I saw that pushing us over. That extra $1,000 plus the 2,000.
We're okay.
Yeah,
We're fine.
we're not massively over.
No.
Catherine.
I was just wondering if we'd heard from Squamish since November 2018.
Yes, Devin has that knowledge. Unfortunately,
Oh,
she just
okay.
left, but
That's fine.
she has been in contact with them.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So
Yeah.
we could hear back from them come
Potentially
January?
in the future,
Okay.
yeah, but the budget will be expired by then, so they'll have to come back and ask for
Okay,
next year's
fine.
budget. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they are aware of that?
We will make them aware of
Okay.
that if they do come back to us.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on budget?
Just,
Yes.
it's kind of a tangent. The mural festival, one of their murals suffered some tagging. Sadly, it was nice to see the community step up and to rectify that situation. But just something we should think about as we go forward is how do we deter future tagging? How do we, get around that, mitigate it? That's all.
I'll speak to that in a little bit once we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's.
Discussed it before.
We can bring that up in the roundtable because I think dedicating a few minutes to that whole situation would have great value. Sarah, is there anything else? Oh, yeah, we can move on to roundtable now. You're done with the staff update?
I haven't obviously gotten rid of this, so we
Okay.
have that already. It'll be Devin most likely in January, as I will not be in the country.
Oh,
So
okay.
I will be coming back. But I'll be on vacation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so that takes us to number 6A, status of recommendations to council, and there's nothing to update you out of there. And there are no referrals to this committee from council, which will take us to item number 7, roundtable. You can, whatever you've got in mind, you can bring up in the roundtable.
Just a question, was there a recommendation to council to make my term 2 years? Was that a council thing? I can't remember.
That issue is still sort of bouncing around in bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's fine. Just wondering.
Okay, so I'm going to selfishly take the number 1 item in the roundtable. Your time and effort is appreciated in coming to these meetings, so thus the festive holiday treats. And I have something, a small token of the appreciation of the District of Squamish for you attending these meetings and bringing your knowledge and expertise. There was a bit of a shopping spree on Cleveland Avenue.
Oh, wow.
So as a thank you for your work in 2019,
Oh, thanks, John. That's quite the treat. Thank you, John.
Is it a car?
Is it a car?
I wish it was a car.
It's a chocolate car.
Oh, yay, thank you.
Do we judge the public art aesthetic of this?
So a box of chocolates from our friends at Choco on Cleveland Avenue
Wow. Thank you.
as a thank you.
Thank you, John. That's great.
That's very thoughtful. Thank you.
Great. So other items for roundtable discussion. Amy, should we go to the flamingo mural?
Yeah, the flamingo debacle. Yeah, so when we noticed that there was some not so nice wording on the mural, so what happened, I believe, is it was defaced, and then Stan fixed it, and then after that, that's when all the profanity got put onto the mural. So a couple of weeks ago at our board meeting, we decided that we knew that Santa Claus parade was going to be put on fairly soon, so we decided to do a quick rush little task force. We brought Stan on board, and we organized a GoFundMe. The idea being, like, to speak about, you know, trying to reduce this kind of impact on public work. The idea of the GoFundMe is that people have a literal buy-in into the project. We wanted to get some youth involved as well, but we just didn't have time because of the Santa Claus parade. So anyway, we worked with Stan, and he braved the cold and the winds and went, and one of our board members actually used the phrase Band-Aid solution, and so that's why there's Band-Aids all over the mural. But the GoFundMe is still up, and our idea is that we're all going to work together, continue to work together as a task force to decide the potential direction of the new mural. We sort of know what we want. It's actually, we're getting community feedback on what could be a potential new mural, but we have to work with the owners of the building. And we're trying to raise funds to redo the mural. And this time we're definitely going to incorporate as much of the community as we can, specifically youth. We're hoping that it'll be maybe the Arts Council youth mural next year with a couple of community artists, and just having kind of all hands on deck. We feel that the more people are involved in these kinds of projects, the more they're going to be looking out for this sort of thing, and you know, protecting something that they made and feel passionate about.
So pride of place.
Yeah, so the GoFundMe is still up. It's on the Squamish Arts Council Facebook page. If you guys wouldn't mind sharing it around, that would be really great. Yeah, so it's, you know, hopefully we can get the whole thing funded by Squamish, but if not, we're going to be still applying for grants and whatnot to be able to activate that space.
Catherine.
Does anyone know what that building's going to be used for now?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay.
I was just
But
gonna
there
ask-
are new owners.
Oh, so and
So I'm
are
walking around in there today. Almost went to go rush with it.
and I hate to say this, but are the new owners going to keep that building, or are they going to tear it down?
I guess it's mine. I don't know. Maybe.
If we're going to do work on it, or if work is going to be done on it next year, we probably should answer that as much as we can.
Yeah, just that's what
Yeah.
the task force is
Of
going to
course.
continue to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to paint on it if it's going to be.
Yeah, I know, sorry. I'm on a theme.
To the best of my knowledge, there is no application for a demolition permit on that building.
But that doesn't mean it can't, if they're new owners, that it couldn't come before council?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, demolition permits don't come before council.
I meant, sorry.
It's a staff function.
Come before the staff.
It's 2 to 3 years before anything can happen.
Yeah.
We went through the process.
Sorry? Oh, right.
It's a if you want to do anything in that building, it would take them at least 2 to 3 years.
Oh, okay.
For
Good
anything
to know
happen.
that. Okay.
Mhm.
And the
So
same with the, like, there's some gap next to it. I mean, you can answer this better,
Yeah.
but you can't just suddenly come along and go, I'm going to build a thing and it'll be up in
No,
6 months. So
I
the
know.
2 to,
I just-
it's like a 2 to
There's
3
so
year
much
timeline.
construction downtown,
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but it's just a timeline that you can't get out of a 2 to 3 year timeline.
Mhm. Okay.
So that is the timeline for demolition?
You could.
I would say from demolition to DP application and work, we didn't even be looking at that much. And then we also need to remember that, like, murals are low barrier, low cost.
Yes.
So it's not the end of the world if that did happen. It's a loss, yes, but it's,
It's
you know,
not
it's
big.
not a major investment. And then just on that, I just wanted to say thank you to Amy for
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
for working to remedy the situation.
Yeah.
knowing that the public art budget was spent, we couldn't have Stan or Amy come forward. So, thank you.
And the last time you looked at the GoFundMe page, do you know what amount it was sitting at? I think the goal is 5,000, 4,500?
Yeah, it's around that for the final mural. Right now we're at 475, and we needed 350 to pay Stan to fix the mural. So we are able to actually pay him for his efforts, which is awesome. And we've already started collecting for the mural for next year.
Great.
Ace.
All right. Does anybody have anything else for Roundtable? Ashley?
So a couple years ago, Toby Jackson had an art kind of lesson thing, and I was a part of that when I was younger. And we painted or spray painted these road blockers on Tantalus, and they were painted over. So I was just wondering what kind of, like, how would I be able to paint over it, like get the authority?
The district painted over it, or?
No, it's still like that.
Oh, there's still.
I'm just wondering, like, how I could
do
kind of maybe get the art club involved at school.
Let's see what Sarah has to say.
I think you should put an application in for the youth public art funding.
For
for the student public art
Great idea.
project.
Very definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Very definitely.
a very small thing. It took us like an hour to paint. But
That's fine.
Because there's budget in there. So.
Yeah.
okay.
No art is too small to be considered.
Absolutely.
In the public realm. So yeah, full.
Thanks for
close to
bringing
you
that
guys,
up.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're welcome to apply to as many as you like.
You could apply and make it bigger and better than whatever the original was. Just a thought. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Anybody else for roundtable contributions? Okay.
Just wondering about the status of the committee.
Okay. We've covered this a couple of times, but I'm happy to review again. So the terms of reference for this committee are fairly clear. It has a 5-year lifespan, and we're basically at that 5-year marker. So there is an ongoing discussion of what does the wrap up of this committee look like, and then what is next, because there's no interest in just stopping, like just shutting it down. That's not what's going to happen. There will be some new iteration of this committee when it finalizes in this form. And at this point, we don't have a hard final meeting date. We will meet in January. I expect we will likely meet in February, and we might meet in March. And then beyond that,
And that's
I
exactly
don't really
5
know.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So know that there are active conversations happening right now amongst a number of people to determine exactly what the transition looks like. And if any of you have any thoughts along this line, certainly email me and I'll make sure that your thoughts get injected into the conversation. Catherine and then Jackie.
You don't need to name names if you don't want to, but who are these number of people? I mean, where are they coming from? Are they council, or are they broader stakeholders? It's just that I've seen this grow, and I have a sense of where it's headed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just would like to know, who's making the decision.
Well, I would characterize it as a collaborative decision. So clearly the mayor is involved in the ongoing conversation. The Arts Council is playing a significant role, and key members of staff that are familiar with the work of this committee and public art in general are also involved in figuring out how we move it forward.
And is there no desire to have a member of the Public Art Committee other than yourself?
Well, I haven't even really been super active in the conversation, so that's a good point.
I mean, I don't know if there's an appetite for that, but
Yeah, I think it's something to consider. I haven't even thought of it myself as a possibility. So Sarah and I will ruminate on that and ask some questions of those involved and see where it goes. Jacquie?
Follow on to that. So is there a thought that people from this committee then be consulted as to what the new version of this committee? I know we had mentioned that there was the sunset clause and that, 5 years was coming to a close, but then it fell off our agenda. And so I wondered, okay, are we as a committee going to be consulted as to how the next iteration will be?
Sarah?
There's a few moving parts currently. One of them is the Arts, Culture and Heritage Strategy. So we're kind of working towards the completion of that and looking at the outcomes of that, as well as some other factors, i.e. council's direction and a few different components. And so I would say we will know more when that strategy is finalized, or at least the first draft goes to council. Because without that direction, we're kind of we don't want to miss the mark, if you know what I mean.
Catherine?
I was just going to say that since its beginning, I would say, I was just trying to add it up in my head, I would say there's been probably about 30 different people involved in this committee. And I mean, not to get their input as to what to do in the future, but it might be useful to get comments from their experiences in the committee, however you define what you're doing going forward, just because there were a lot of good people putting a lot of time and they came away with different impressions. Most of the people I know who had to leave. They had other things that they were wanting to spend their time on. So I think it would be useful, if these former members were invited to, write up, answer a few questions, or a survey monkey survey, or just offer some things, because they have knowledge that might be useful to access.
Yep. Good. Anything else, Peter?
I just want to make a comment on a general theme.
Yep.
It comes up with the workshops and the question I asked before. I'm really intrigued from a legislative point of view. When you put in a sunset clause, whatever you call it, that you don't have a procedure is like, this is how it's going to happen, sort of thing. And I'm not just talking about this, I'm talking about in lots of things, whether it's a new committee gets formed, a new workshop, there's a department that I don't need to mention, and it's like, I'm always intrigued what happens with information. So I think from a public perspective, anybody watching this now or listening in, is that to help with transparency of anything, whether it's a workshop, whether it's like meetings, whether it is, if you know it's set procedure, then there's no questions. And that's why I want to say, just as a general thing, because I'd be interested to see when that original documentation came out, whether they could have put, this is what, not what will happen, because you never know what's going to happen, this is how we're going to approach it. And then we can sit here and go, oh yeah, that's what they're doing now, because that's what we expected. And I think that is the only problem in any discussions I've had, and it's also some of the challenges we've had, say, with somebody coming to the community, like the grant that didn't go out there, that $2,000 to the kid. Again, we talk about procedures. It's like, well, if you know exactly how you're going to tick these boxes, then that $2,000 would be given because they knew exactly what they did. And that, I'd say, is probably what we're talking about, actually.
Yep. Great. Anybody have anything else for the roundtable? Good. Then I will look for a recommendation that the meeting be terminated. Moved by Jacquie. Oh, you have an item. Okay.
Did we say that our New Year meeting would be a week later?
Yes, we did.
It's on the 8th, I believe, because the 1st is the
Right.
first Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's the 8th of January?
Yes,
So-
and Vanessa, I think, sent an email out
Okay.
to the committee.
That you probably didn't get because apparently
I think I
email to
did.
you was hit and miss.
I may have, but I just wanted a quick reminder. And yes, I do to wrap them up after you do.
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, so checking my own schedule, Wednesday, that's 2019, not 2020. Yes, January the 1st is the first Wednesday of the new year, and I don't think anybody wants to be here at 6:30 on January the 1st. So Wednesday, January the 8th at 6:30 will be our next meeting. So
Yes,
now
I do.
you will move that the meeting be terminated and seconded by Ashley. All those in favor? Unanimous, carried. Thank you.